Call the meeting to order. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I ask for a motion for approval of the minutes, Carly Ryder is absent this evening, taking advantage of spring break, I believe, and Cynthia Mickelson is joining us right here, but on the phone. So we'll be doing roll call votes for everything this evening. So may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the meetings held February 25th and March 6th, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye. That motion carries. We do have one person wishing to address the board on a non-agenda item, and that is Tony. If you'll come forward, give us your name and your address, please.
Tony Martinet, address is 46220 West Shore Place, Hartford, South Dakota. I'm here today as the president for the Sioux Falls Education Association. I just wanted to address the board. Thank you for this opportunity. Just to kind of give an update on some of the stuff the association's been trying to do to help advocate for education within Sioux Falls. Now, many of you may have hopefully read in the Argus Leader last week, we donated 6 little free libraries to schools here in Sioux Falls. We have 4 more. We're working with some schools to try to get those donated as well. As part of the process in getting the little free library, we also gave them money so that they as schools can decorate those little free libraries, make them their own. We'll go back in the spring, provide all the materials so those can be put on their school properties as well. But what I really wanted to highlight for you is kind of what SFEA does and why this little free library is one of the many projects we try to do to support education in Sioux Falls. So SFEA is about advocating for the best public education for all students. One of the things we did earlier this summer in our leadership group is we adopted a narrative for the association. We felt it was more encompassing than just a simple mission statement of what it is we're trying to accomplish and what our goal is for education. And so a copy of that was presented to you. The 4 pillars of our narrative are that we believe in a system that values every student as a unique individual. We believe student success requires partnerships between the school and the community. We are committed to educators continuously developing and utilizing their professional knowledge. And then we are committed to using the power of our collective voice as an agent for change. So I just want to highlight for you some of the things that have been driven by this new narrative. We recently did a documentary screening of Paper Tigers. It's a documentary that looks at a school in Walla Walla, Washington that's a community-based school. That it's actually Lincoln Alternative High School is the name of it. It's a school that addresses all the physical, emotional, social, and psychological needs of students and the success they're having in order to create some conversation. We're also applying for a grant right now to bring a group called Dances with Words, which is a group out of the Pine Ridge Reservation, to Sioux Falls next year to really work with all of our students, but to really try to help students understand how they can use their own voice to advocate and to speak for themselves. As far as partnerships with school and community, as SFEA president, I worked with the Vote Yes campaign to help with the bond issue because that was a very important issue for our students and for our district. We have the Little Free Library Project. We're going to be doing a book drive here by the end of this month to raise books for those libraries as well as for schools that need it. We also partnered with the Sioux Falls Education Foundation to do a grant writing workshop. The big goal this year has been utilizing teacher professional development. So through a grant from our National Association, we've done some workshops for our early career educators. Our biggest one has been our Blended Learning Academy. We've had over 40 teachers complete our workshops. They can then purchase graduate credit if they want, but the workshops are free. And then we've also been able to send 7 of our members to national conferences, really working with the National Council of Urban Education Association and minority leadership training for some of our minority members as well. As far as advocating for education, we've had members attend the legislative coffees and lobby day in Pierre, really trying to encourage that increased funding for education, as well as supporting a lot of the bills that try to promote public education. We also have two other groups we have going, our Young Educator Support Group. As many of us know, most early career educators leave the profession within the first 5 years. This group specifically targeting them and trying to encourage them. We're also starting a minority caucus, so we encourage our diverse members to have more of a voice and more of a say. I know that's also one of the goals of the district, to increase the diversity of our teachers, and so this is another way that we as an association are trying to help and promote that. So I know that was really fast, but so we are doing a lot of different things. All of these are about advocating for education and education, best education for our students. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. All right. We have one other person wishing to address the board, but that is on an agenda item, so we'll get to you when we get to that item on the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Board Member Tulke,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Mickelson,
Aye.
Alberty, aye. That motion carries. And good news report, Deanne.
Good evening. During the last meeting, as you'll recall, we heard about some of the student achievements in our fine arts programs. Earlier last week, we also had some very exciting news regarding one of our music teachers who was selected for a high honor as well. The Country Music Association Foundation, that's the real CMA Foundation. They are a national music education nonprofit and the philanthropic arm of the Country Music Association. And they notified us that Roosevelt High School's Robin Starks Holcomb has been chosen as one of 30 music teachers of excellence. The Music Teachers of Excellence program is only in its 4th year, so she joins now a group of 120. Very prestigious honor. She will receive a $2,500 stipend to invest in her classroom, as well as another $2,500 for her own personal reward for this selection. And Principal Tim Hazlett dropped in on a class and I think surprised her pretty well with this award. We have a short video as the CMA Foundation asked that it be videoed, so we're going to give this a whirl.
Award, you get to go to Nashville.
I think you can tell she was pretty surprised. That little box came in the mail to Tim, and he had it stuffed underneath his desk, waiting for the right moment, and was able to catch that reaction. And that video then will be sent to the CMA Foundation. They're putting a video together of all of the announcements and the shock that's on the teachers' faces. So we think that was a pretty great shock. In addition to that, very prestigious honor that Roosevelt High School Show Choir was just performed earlier this month at the National Convention of the American Choral Directors Association in Kansas City. It's a very, you have to try out, and you don't just try out, you try out and try out and try out. And they were the only show choir to be able to perform at this national convention. And certainly Robin's work with those students and perfecting not only the musicality, but the moves and all of everything that goes into a show choir is pretty difficult. So Another exciting piece is Robin is being invited to Nashville next month for the celebration. Recipients are selected because of their dedication to bring quality music programs to their students and because they positively impact their school and community through their work. So let's invite Robin forward and congratulate her.
It's pretty hard to render me speechless, and if you notice in the video, I did not say a word. It was a huge surprise. I was encouraged to apply for that, and when I saw that it meant money for our program, that was it. That was the reason behind it, the reasoning I did it. My favorite part of that video, there are two favorite parts. The biggest favorite part of that video for me is the high five from Tim Hazlett, because that's the type of administrator he is, and he lifts up and celebrates all of our achievements and makes sure that everybody has exactly what they need to be successful in our environment. The other part of the video that I love so much, where I think the students were more excited than I was at the time. You saw them jumping up and down, and everything we do there, we do as a team. It's not us as directors. I mean, to some extent, obviously, they need guidance, and it's us as leaders, but we forge ahead with our students, not in front of them. It's very much a joint effort. So the students have done the work, and we are their biggest cheerleaders. Deanne asked me just very quickly maybe to talk about the importance of music education and what it's meant at Roosevelt. So I went to the experts and I asked the students, and I just, very short sentences, I'm just going to read my favorite responses that have been sent along to share with you. So one student says, "It gives us a small glimpse into the immense culture and humanity that is constantly surrounding us. It brings people who are far apart together and creates a safe space for students to be themselves, even when the rest of the world is telling you to follow the status quo." A second one, "Choir has created a culture of dedicated students that know the value of hard work. It has also created a culture of students that are able to be themselves because they know they are surrounded by people who love them. Music has touched my life and given me fulfillment, and being a part of choir has been 100% the most remarkable part of my high school years. I will never forget this program and will be eternally grateful for the opportunities it has given me, and the lessons I've learned will stay with me throughout my life." And finally, music is often referred to as being a universal language. I think this is true both in the technical sense, because notes on a page are read the same by people around the world without a language barrier, as well as a literal sense, because good music has the ability to speak without words. For these reasons, I think music education is absolutely important, as it teaches us how to read the notes and perform the songs that connect us to others. I have seen this to be true within Roosevelt's music department, as students grow incredibly close to one another through our shared passion for music. The same holds true beyond just the students in the department, though, as the love we have for music is infectious. I've witnessed a growing support for music in all forms within the Roosevelt community as a whole over the years, and there is no doubt in my mind that music is shaping our school for the better. So, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again. There's a quote, and I'll paraphrase, I won't get it right, but leadership is about making those who surround you better, and you epitomize that. Congratulations, well-deserved. Thank you.
Robin, I don't know if you remember, but Kinder Music. So I've gotten to watch you through like a graduation and work with the kids and how much fun everybody has. But it even goes far back to Kinder Music, where 18-month-old and 2- and 3-year-olds, I mean, there's no way to be a cool guy at Kinder Music. But it touched my girls and all the kids. We all still keep together, and I think that really helps develop a kid's love for music and even helps in education. So thank you.
All right. We'll move on with the agenda. We do have one conflict of interest, and would need a motion to approve that, please.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye. That conflict of interest is approved. Motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Talke?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye. And supplemental consent agenda, 9A, 1, 2, and 3, claims to Sanford. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Talke?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson abstains, and Alberti, aye. That motion carries. 9B, claims to Vera Heart Hospital, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Talke?
Aye.
Parker abstains. Mickelson?
Aye.
And Alberti, aye. And we are on to the reports of the superintendent, Dr. Maher.
Our first report tonight is the naming of the new high school and middle school colors and mascots.
And we do have one person wishing to address the board on that topic. Charles, if you'll come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and you've got 5 minutes to speak to that.
Good evening. I'm Charles Kolb, 7104 West 12th Street in Sioux Falls. Got a daughter in the school district here, Patrick County. My thoughts are on the Cavaliers as a mascot for the new Thomas Jefferson High School. And I've got two thoughts on that. And the first one is they already have a little cavalcade of Cavaliers already for mascots in Sioux Falls. The O'Gorman Knights and the Sioux Falls Christian Chargers are both from the 1600s English time zone, and they're both they're all Cavaliers. They're from the same, at the time of Charles I, and they all, when they came over through Virginia and settled there, the Cavaliers and also the Puritans. The Puritans and the Cavaliers who were fighting in England at the time didn't get along, and they basically kicked the Puritans out up to Massachusetts and Maryland. Well, they ended up fighting again about 200 years later, too, in the Civil War, because the Cavaliers basically started slavery in America. They were the royalist of England, and generally they were the second and third born of the families, because the firstborn was entitled to land, and since they didn't have land, they came to America looking for that. But the Cavaliers were led by Sir William Berkeley, and there's a famous quote by Berkeley that says, "I thank God we have not free schools nor printing, and I hope we shall not have these 100 years. For learning has brought disobedience, and hearsay, and sex into the world, and printing has divulged them and libeled against the government. God keep us from both." And that's a quote from like 1642, he was twice governor of Virginia. I think that one of the reasons they chose this was because Thomas Jefferson had started the University of Virginia, and the Cavaliers are the mascot of UVA. My thoughts would be to have something more relevant to South Dakota from Thomas Jefferson, either like the Explorers or maybe an eagle, something like that, but not something that's involved in the start of race, start of slavery and the fight of the Civil War in America, because that basically came from the Cavaliers. So I was wondering if maybe you can have the kids that put this together maybe take another look at it and see if there's some other choice they could make, or if it's what they want to move ahead with, because I think it's something that maybe bears looking more into. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. On February 26th, we convened a group called the Student Advisory Group. This is a group of 16 students, representative of all of the high schools in the Sioux Falls School District. 14 of the 16 students were able to make it here in this room on that particular day. Their charge was to come up with a mascot and school colors for Thomas Jefferson High School and Ben Rifle Middle School. Dr. Nold and Dr. Boyson from the IPC staff put this group through a number of exercises to, number one, come up with, in advance of the meeting, their charge was to come up with potential mascots and color schemes, and also to have a rationale as to why they chose not only the mascot, but also the color scheme. After considerable work, the groups came up and put in front of you a recommendation for the Thomas Jefferson High School Cavaliers, with the school colors being green, gold, and black. And their rationale, and I'll read you the rationale that they provided. In 1819, the 76-year-old Jefferson founded the University of Virginia. He organized the state legislative campaign for its charter, and with the assistance of Edmund Bacon, purchased the location. He was the principal designer of the buildings, planned the university's curriculum, and served as the first rector upon its opening in 1825. The University of Virginia's mascot and nickname is the Cavaliers. The chosen colors are Kelly green, gold, and black. The selection was based on color schemes not widely used in the state of South Dakota, and they really looked at teams in the city and teams that we would compete against to come up with a new color scheme. In addition, green was selected as a way of weaving in the colors of New Tech High School, since New Tech High School will be a part of Thomas Jefferson High School. On to Ben Rifle Middle School. The selection is the bison for the mascot and crimson and gold for the colors. The rationale is that since Ben Rifle was a Lakotan congressman, it seems fit to use some symbols and colors of the Lakotan culture. The bison is a symbol prominent in our state. The selected colors are directly from the flag of the Rosebud Sioux tribe. The colors are crimson and gold. I would tell you that the students didn't just pick one selection, they had many selections and went through the exercises of narrowing that large funnel of names down. I've had a couple of people say to me that Explorers would be a good name. I can tell you that is one of the names that was vetted by the students, as well as many other names vetted by the students. And they have, on their behalf, I come to you tonight with the recommendation that you adopt for Thomas Jefferson High School as a mascot, the Cavaliers, and as a color scheme, Kelly green, gold, and black. And for Ben Rifle Middle School, as a mascot, the bison, and as a color scheme, crimson and gold. I ask the board to accept the recommendation of the Superintendent Advisory Committee and adopt the mascots and colors as presented. Stand by for any questions.
Questions for Dr. Maher?
Just clarification, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the students had gone to their student bodies previous to this meeting in February. So it wasn't just them coming together and researching and making these decisions. They had kind of gone out and gotten suggestions from their student bodies and bringing them forth.
Well, I don't want to overstate that, so I don't know the degree to which that was done. I can tell you a couple of weeks prior to their meeting, information was sent to them on what would happen at this meeting. I know several of the students reached out to peers. I don't know
to what extent.
I don't know to what extent that happened, but there was a good deal of participation by the students and a good deal of conversation and discussion on February 26th. But there was a good deal of work that was done prior to February 26th on their behalf as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. I noticed that you pronounced bison two different ways that universally accepted, except for in North Dakota. Isn't that pronounced bison?
Oh, well, I've never lived in North Dakota, so I'm not extremely well-versed on North Dakotan culture. But bison was the name that did come up. B-I-S-O-N was the spelling.
Okay, all right, thank you. Could I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion?
I mean, I think the kids put tremendous thought into these selections, so I trust in the work that they've done, and I think we'd be remiss not to accept their recommendations.
It was a pleasure to watch the kids work. It was also Dr. Boyce and Dr. Knoll did a tremendous job of working the exercise with the students. And Casey Miley, our district director of activities, did a super job with the information in advance of the meeting for the students.
We charge those kids with coming up with a name and a rationale, and I accept what they've come up with. I think we'd be remiss in negating anything that they came up with.
I think it's also more than fair to say that the conversations about Thomas Jefferson, everything that was culturally acceptable and the norm for the 1700s was taken into consideration on all of these decisions, and to move forward, I believe this is more than appropriate based on all of the conversation and research that's been done. So, good work. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. We'll do roll call vote again. Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye. That motion carries. And we are on to the legislative update.
The second report of this evening is the legislative update. As you know, we're getting closer to the end of that season, if you will. And here to give you an update is Mr. Veek.
Thank you, Dr. Maher. As we talked about last time, we had 8 key bills that we tracked. We were opposed to 7 of them and supported one after it was amended, put on an amendment that we wanted on it. Of those bills, all but one has died. The one we supported did pass. And we supported it with the amendment. It wasn't like it was our idea or anything like that, but we did want to, that's the SPED interim committee. We wanted to make sure that a SPED director and a business manager were on that as well. Thought they might have some expertise. Of the bills that died, the one we supported was restoring the capital outlay levy to $3. That didn't start out that way. It got amended that way. When it did, we supported that. So that's where we're at on the key bills. We'll have a legislative wrap-up. There's 2 days left at the main run, and then there's a final day at the end of March. So we'll have a legislative wrap-up next time. We'll go through this in a little more detail. I'd just say it sounds like, and I was kind of in a meeting right up till the board meeting, but sounds like the 2.5% is still on track. There was a push to take the 2.3, which was the index factor, and then add the 0.7, which was one time last year, which the index factor should have been 1.7. It was funded at 1 last year, so it was funded at 1 and then ongoing, and then 0.7 one time. So the idea was to take the 2.3, add 0.7 to it, and make it a 3 ongoing, so that the formula had been fully funded over its first 3 years. That doesn't look like that will happen, at least according to what I read today, but it does look like the 2.5 is supported in both houses. So that's my report. I'd ask that you approve it. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Business Manager Veek? If not, may I have a motion to approve the legislative update?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion?
Thanks for keeping on top of all the activity for us.
All right, we'll do again roll call vote. Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye, and that motion carries. And we are on to the item 11, which is policy.
Yeah, we have 5 policies up tonight for review, revise. They'd been part of our ongoing review of all of our policies, and no significant changes were made, so we recommend review, revise. I'll go through each one. JLF and its accompanying regulation, reporting child abuse, child protection, no changes. KBAA, public records, no changes. KLC and its accompanying regulation, relations with social service agencies investigating child abuse, no changes. KLG and its accompanying regulation, relations with law enforcement authorities. We just put in something that recognized an MOU between Sioux Falls Police Department and the School Resource Officer Program. And policy LD, on-campus recruitment by colleges, universities, and the military, no changes. So I move to acknowledge the review revision of these 5 policies.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, again, roll call vote. Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye, and that carries. And we are on to appointment of members of the school board to the Board of Equalization.
You just have that in front of you. I would just
Okay.
take a motion.
Can I get a motion to approve the board member appointment to the Board of Equalization?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, we'll do roll call. All those in favor would signify by saying aye. Tulkey?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Mickelson?
Aye.
Alberti, aye. That motion carries. And we are to the end of the agenda. We did have one item that had initially been planned to be on the agenda for this evening. That was the dual immersion program for Hayward and Rosa Parks, the Spanish immersion, and we are going to postpone that until the 25th of March due to board member Reiter not being here. It just seemed to fit better to do that then. So any other business to come before the board? If not, may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.